I just got off the phone with someone, a very kind gentleman who lives in China, and he was raised in his youth in Australia, but he lives in China, and he was asking how he could possibly get a copy of the BYNV. This is something that has really moved him, and I just thought I'd mention it in this video because I'm just freshly off the phone just moments ago, and I was preparing to make a video here, and it was so exciting to hear the joy in his voice. And he's been watching these videos, and he's interested in, he's got some of these tracks he's downloaded from lamblegacyfoundation.com, lamblegacyfoundation.com, and these are also available at torazone.net. And he's finding a lot of truth. He's testing it all. And I want to thank him for calling me. He's having problems getting the Amazon over there because they have strict laws about what they think is religious stuff. This video is about words that people have misunderstood. Did a cross redeem you? A cross. That's what they show you. Put them up on buildings, and they don't even know what they really are anciently. But the research that we've done over the last few decades reveals that, you know, even as recently as the Civil War time here in the United States, during the 1860s, there was a man who was a theologian in England, and his name was Ethelbert Bullinger. And he put out an annotation or annotated form of the King James Version, and he discovered all these misunderstood words from the previous languages, you know, and it's really amazing. It's an annotated version of the King James Version, and it's about half full of all the corrections that is loaded with the mistakes. Not that he understood very much about the festivals or anything, or we don't expect that he obeyed commandments, which, you know, helps when you try to understand Scripture. But because he was in the Anglican Catholic circus, you know, they teach sacraments and not commandments. Anyway, did a cross redeem you? A lot of people think so. They bow down to them, the physical objects. Whoa. It's not the cross that redeems you, but it is the blood of the renewed covenant. Animal blood has been set aside now, and all that busy work, slaughtering animals, offering them on an altar, sprinkling the blood inside a room. And for many years they were going into an empty chamber, because the ark was not inside the temple for a long time. It's the blood of Yahusha that has replaced and it completely redeems us once and for all. And that's what purchased us, the blood of the Ruach HaKodesh. The Ruach HaKodesh, the blood of the Ruach HaKodesh, it says this. It purchased us at Acts 20, verse 28. It wasn't an imposter, some coming in some other man's name. Not the J-man. That's not who it is. His name is Yahusha. Yahusha was lifted up on a staro, or that's the Latin word for the Greek word staros. The staros, it isn't a star. It's a staros. And the root of the word is the ST sound. St. And that is a single beam of wood. It's a tree limb or an upright log. Like in the word stockade, you have a series of staroses. And they're upright. They're one at a time. You know, they're poles, they're beams. It isn't a cross like two beams of wood. The image of the two crossed beams is another impostor's sign. It's a symbol Constantine gave Christianity. And this sign, conquer. That was a vision that he had before he went into battle one day, and he worshiped the sun. So he was looking at the sun, praying to the sun, and he asked the sun to help. And he saw this cross beneath the sun that said, in this sign, conquer. He worshiped this guy, Apollo, Sol Invictus, the unconquerable sun. Anyway, that's not good. We've adopted a symbol of Constantine. The CRUX was brought into the translation, and that was done by one man, and we'll talk about him in just a moment. It was a symbol for Apollo, or the Druids used the same symbol. It has a circle in it. It's a CRUX with a circle, and that's the symbol for Woden. You know, the Druid sun deity. It's also something that they call Odin, which is actually a form of the word Adon, which is a Hebrew word, and that means Adonai. That's where it came through, you know. Woden is what we know. And it names the fourth day of the week. We're actually, well, we don't, but most people call that day the fourth day of the week. Woden's day. It's not his day. Anyway, the Ruach HaKodesh is only given to those who obey him. And that's written in Acts 5:32. The Ruach HaKodesh's name is Yahusha. If you follow Yahusha and not the false teaching of men's traditions, you will know the truth, and he will free you from all the lies our fathers have passed down to us. His followers are called Natsarim, which means branches. It also means guardians. And we were predicted at Jeremiah chapter 31, verse 6. Look at an interlinear at Jeremiah chapter 31, verse 6. Nazarene will cry out on the hills of Ephraim, or the mountain of Ephraim. There was a dude named Eusebius Hieronymus Sophronius who did the translation from the Greek and the Hebrew into Latin. And it's called the Latin Vulgate. And that is what the King James Version is based on, the Latin Vulgate. And that's where this word CRUX first appeared. Let me say that again because it's so important. The word CRUX first appeared in the Latin Vulgate, and it began around 391 CE through 403 CE. There was no word CRUX anywhere going on. Even in the Greek translation, it was staros. And the interesting thing, and I've mentioned this in other videos, the Greek word staros has an equivalent word, staro. It's amazing. It's exactly the same word. But Jerome, they call him Jerome, Eusebius Hieronymus Sophronius, they don't even know his name. Because there's no J at that point. There's no J until like 17th century. It isn't even, there's no J in the first edition of the King James Version. They took down the IESV, as I've also mentioned many times, from the Latin Vulgate. That's what they were calling Yahusha. Anyway, this cross thing, that didn't redeem anybody. It wasn't a cross. And it wasn't the wood that saves you. It was the blood that was shed in your stead. And it was one offering And that's it. That takes, you trust in that, not animal blood. It's all over for the animal blood. There's not going to be any animal blood that's going to cover sin. And he died on a pole, a staros. The Hebrew word is nas. And it was one upright beam or log, tree limb, whatever you want to think of it as. But that didn't save you. It was his blood. It was an upright stake. Constantine's deity was Apollo, the sun. And the solar CRUX symbol was adopted as a habit for the unconverted pagan hordes. They were familiar with it, so they went, hey, there it is. Syncretism. That is the borrowing and adapting from other places and ideas and adopting them into a religious faction from another religious faction, normally. And they borrow their deities' ideas. And another thing that they use is missionary adaptation, which is basically the same thing. Missionaries go to great distances to find converts, and they look around and they find their things that they worship and the symbols and the ideas and concepts, and they adopt them. That's what was done to Christianity. It's just a mishmash of all this paganism. They don't do a thing that was in the scriptures. They don't do that. They say, stay away from that. Well, Yahusha wants his Nazarene to go and teach everyone his name, immersing them in the name. And there's only one name, Yahusha, which means I am your deliverer. And teach all nations to obey everything that we, Nazarene, were commanded to obey. Everything we were commanded to obey. But somewhere along the line, very early, they were taught to obey nothing. Well, the traditions got absorbed, and they mixed pagan customs into the thousands of Christian denominations that we see today. A little bit about the guy that translated the Latin Vulgate, Eusebius, Hieronymus, Sophronius. They call him Jerome. He was a self-castrated headmaster at the catechetical school at Alexandria, Egypt. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next exciting video. Bye.